Good afternoon, guys. How are you today? Hello, hello. You right?
Good afternoon, teacher.
You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
What about the others? Anna, Gabi?
Yeah, I can hear you, teacher.
Perfect. Well, I have some some deceptions for you. I have your exams here, but I want you to show you personal. Unfortunately, we cannot do that here. So next Saturday, I'm going to show you your exam. Yeah, your uh the previous exam that you did. Okay, big apologizes about today, but well, coordination decided to let us do that. And besides that, I am a bit I've got like a sore throat, a little bit sick. That's why also I didn't want you to spread the virus. I didn't want to spread the virus. Well, this is our last leg, our last Saturdays, because we still have 4 Saturdays, I think. No, don't remember if it's 3 or 4 Saturdays. Uh, and three units to cover. So, but these units are a little bit the hardest units, especially this one. Uh, it has to be clear with that. And so let's open our books, guys. Let's open our books. The unit that we will be covering is going to be Unit 10. Yeah, Unit 10. Uh, Unit 10 is about over my dead body. It's about modal verbs of probability in the past. The Amazing Vikings, there is a reading. Probably we will cover the reading in a moment. Yeah, after revising a little bit of modal verbs. Vocabulary, metaphors, and idioms, and the body, stress, intonation. There is a listening and writing, adding emphasis. Okay, so look at this. Day of the Dead. No, unfortunately, it's not here. It's already gone. It's already finished, the celebration. Uh, so look quickly at the photo. What is it? Can you describe me? What is the cover
They
of
are like a monument made of bones.
uh, many bones? How do you call this part when it's a bone?
The skull,
Skull, yeah, skull.
skulls, and other kinds of bones.
Mm.
Maybe human parts.
Yeah, human part.
Mm.
Is it
There is a place in France that is underground. That is, it
catacombs?
has like catacombs. Yes,
Uh-huh.
maybe something like that.
Would you like to visit this kind of place, ladies?
No, I wouldn't like to.
All right. What about the ladies? And what about the other?
No, so much, teacher.
Not so much. Yeah. But it's common, no? That we see these kind of things in our culture. I don't know if you have been to Michoacan. Michoacan sometimes, and there are other parts. For example, if you've been to Guanajuato, they are shown the mummies, you know, and these like zombies bodies, no? In Michoacan, well, when it's these days celebrations, Day of the Dead, you um, you can share time with your dead family in the graveyard, yeah, and Well, the only thing that is missing here is the cempasúchil flower. It's not here, unfortunately. It's just bones and skulls, yeah, and parts of the different bones, no, of the body, yeah. And yeah, probably it is in France, or yeah. It's more or less the idea of praise the dead, you know, because we have as Mexicans, our culture, our pre-ancient civilization, pre-Hispanic, or before that, Mayans, probably, we offer or we praise a lot the dead, no, and that's why it is very common, it's popular, and it's fine, no, with that, yeah. Do you like this kind of celebration? Did you go to Mikixley Festival, or did you visit the graveyard in these days, guys?
I don't. I am not very kind to do that.
Yeah. All right.
Kind of
You're
thing.
not really into Day of the Dead. And what about the other? Ira, Gerson, what did you do during these days? Did you visit? Did you disguise as a Katrina, as a Catherine? Did you put your ofrenda? Or no? Not really. Yeah? Who is in your ofrenda? I am not really into the ofrendas. I don't put, but my mom and my other family relatives, they love these celebrations. I like a lot admiring. I like having a look. For example, I went to the city center, and there were ofrendas. There were offerings, and some of them are really beautiful. But me, myself, not really. Probably after my mom, if if she's gone, maybe I'll keep that celebration. No, I'll keep that celebration, but not yet. Unfortunately, not yet. So it says here one quote: "The dead will not die completely until they are remembered by no one." Well, it's a little bit complicated, this. But depending on how much you love your loved ones, yeah, and we have this advantage, this celebration, that we put ofrendas, and we praise, and we share time, no, we have this belief that they visit us, no. I don't know, but sometimes when it's 31st, from the 31st of October till the 3rd of November, when my family put ofrendas, sometimes I hear steps, I hear like voices coming. I don't know if it's in my imagination, but it happens normally in these days. So, for example, I wasn't here in Jujutla where my mom put ofrendas, but sometimes we hear that, or I hear that, yeah, and I say, well, maybe they visit us, maybe this is the belief that we have as Mexicans, but it's fine, no? It's up to you if you want to believe, or if you don't want. Maybe until you hear or you see, you're gonna believe. All right, let's watch the video.
Welcome to Unit 10. This unit is all about the importance of historical discoveries and the links we can show between the past and present. in terms of our culture, tools and lifestyles, and what we can learn about ourselves from the evidence we see today. Listen to people talking about their take on the importance of history in their lives today.
I know quite a lot about the history of the place I grew up. I was raised in a city called York, which is in the north of England, and it was a Roman city with a really rich history, and I guess I was surrounded by that as a child, and it's because of that I became really passionate about history and archaeology, and eventually went on to study it at university.
I grew up in a small village in the south of Scotland, which doesn't have an incredibly rich history. However, a local historian did write a book about it, and I read that as a teenager, and yeah, I thought it was really interesting, especially since it mentioned a lot of place names and even street names that I was really familiar with.
I originally come from Manchester, which is in the north of England, and we grew up in the valleys, so cotton was very important, so everywhere was massive cotton mills, and when I was growing up it was closing down, so there was a lot of unemployment, but people lived there and had lived there for generations, so they stayed, but you could see the decline really quickly.
Well, where I grew up learning about my Māori culture, I didn't learn about that at school. I learned about that from my adult family, and it's an oral history traditions that we learned as we grew up. Yeah, very important where we came from, who we are as a people.
Local history. Well, I grew up in Highgate in London, and I suppose there was quite a lot of local history there because it's a very old village. It was still very much a village then. When we first moved there, it even had cobbled streets, so, you know, lovely old buildings.
I come from a very small town, and we always learned about it in school, and my grandparents had grown up in that same town, so I hear a lot of the stories from them too, which is a really different kind of history, so it's really interesting to learn it that way too.
Interestingly, we learned a lot about the Second World War, but now that we live in Berlin, it's very still very alive, the separation of Berlin, and so this history, funnily, is not really, or has not really been taught in school, as far as I remember. So that's a bit strange, or sad at least, because now it's really interesting to get to know so much history of Berlin now that we live there.
One place that I visited, which I found absolutely fascinating, and which I'm hoping to go back to quite soon, is Crete. And Crete is absolutely jam-packed full of archaeological sites and remains, which are really fascinating. And I really enjoy actually visiting places like that and establishing connections, I guess, between the present and the past.
Yeah, I visited some Roman ruins in Libya in North Africa, and that was really interesting for me because they were the most intact ruins I've ever seen. You could actually see the shapes of buildings and not just a heap of rocks that, you know, might have been a shop once upon a time. Yeah, and you could still see all the old surfaces like the marble and the sort of bricks underneath, and that was really interesting for me because it made it seem a lot more real.
I think perhaps close to us there's a place called Himmelbjerget, which actually means the sky mountain. It's 148 meters high, and it plays a big role in the history of democracy in Denmark. There were big gatherings of people. Lots of people met there 100 years ago and discussed democracy and women's rights. So that's a very interesting place I like to visit. Yeah.
Well, I'm an artist, a sculptor, And so visiting Italy for me has been, it's the most wonderful place. I absolutely love it.
I visited Munich, Germany, and that was really interesting. I learned that there's still like thousands of bombs underneath the city that have just been built on top of from World War II, which I thought was absolutely crazy to learn.
Yeah, I was, when I was traveling during that time, Angkor Wat in Cambodia was really present, is a present memory that I have that connected me really physically as well to the past, where I could really perceive how that must have been living in that area, and yeah, that was really impressive.
I spontaneously remember Peru, where I was on Machu Picchu, and that was really interesting to get that feeling in the nature, and that people in the past have been built so impressive monuments there within the nature and with their hands, and that was really impressive for me. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it was a little bit about their opinion. Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the next page, please. Next page is about page 100. A little bit about modal verbs in probability in the past. But before that, we have here the normal ones. Yeah. For example, Gabby, can you read the first one, please?
Yeah. She must be very rich.
Yeah, this is which of these sentences do this? Put a tick and put a don't. Yeah, cross. All modal verbs can be expressed to degrees of probability. So which of these express probability? So in this case, Gabby read this. It expresses probability, no? Next, please, Richard. Richard, are you there? Okay. If not, Herzog, please.
Yes, I must do my homework.
It doesn't express probability here. It's just an obligation. Iram, please.
They can't be at home. There are no lights on.
It expresses probability or not so much? Yes or no? Yes, of course. Please, Agavi.
I think it's game, but I might be wrong.
It expresses or not really?
It expresses.
It expresses. Herzog?
I can't sleep because of the noise. It don't express.
It doesn't? Okay. Next, please, Iram.
You should see a doctor.
Probability or not really?
Not really.
Probability? More or less, no? Could be. Richard, are you there?
Yes. Cheer up. Things could be worse. I think it's a probability.
Gabi, please. The train.
The train may be late due to bad weather. And it expresses probability.
Correct. Yes. Okay. So which one can be in past?
10.1 Modal verbs in the past. 1.
She must have been very rich.
Yes. So here, the first, you can make it in past. She must have been very rich, no? So imagine a person that recently died. There was a mention. many people gather as attending to this funeral. So she must have been very rich. No, I am assuming that.
2.
I had to do my homework.
Because it's a obligation, the past of must in this case is had. Yeah, because it's an obligation. I had to do my homework.
3.
They can't have been at home. There were no lights on.
In this case, they could have been at home. There were no lights. It can be a past modal verb. No, imagine that I passed by near my house yesterday, so they can have been at home. There were no lights. Yeah, yesterday. So no.
4.
I thought that was Jane, but I might have been wrong.
Here, because the same, it's a probability, we can put it, I thought it was Jane, but I might have been wrong. Yeah, maybe. I was walking down the street yesterday and I had this feeling that might have been Jane, but it wasn't, maybe. Yeah. So you can
I thought that was Jane.
5.
I couldn't sleep because of the noise.
Here, the past of can, couldn't, no? Simple as that. Can, couldn't.
6.
You should have seen a doctor.
So imagine you should have seen the doctor. My family relative is really sick. You should have seen a doctor. Look at you. You're dying. So you can put it in past.
7.
Cheer up. Things could have been worse.
Yeah, here, things could have been worse. It is probability in past, no? But nothing happened. Fortunately, there was no accident. There was nothing to worry about. So things could have been worse. Could have been.
8.
The train may have been late due to bad weather.
And finally, this one is possible as well. The train might have been late due to the bad weather. That's why we are 1 hour traveling more. Yeah. So as you can see, some of them can be in past, and actually they are in past because we talk about things that happen and you never change. Remember that we can't change the past, but we can express our regrets. We can express things that could have happened. Yeah, that's where the past modal verbs come. Yeah, things that could have happened. I mentioned, oh, it's a regret. Yeah, es un lamento, regret. Yeah. Or I am assuming that happened. I think that happened. Yeah, that's why we use this kind of past modal verbs. No, so missing 500 years ago, one of the greatest mystery in English history. In August 2012, the skeleton of a 500-year-old man was discovered beneath a concealed car park, Leicester, England. This caused great excitement among archaeologists and historians. Why? He could have been an important person in the royal family. No, he could have been. Yeah. He might have been killed. He might have been killed by warriors during a war in that time. No, long time ago. All right. So here we're gonna read the introduction, discuss the question: who was that man? How did he die? He could have been killed. Why was he found in a car? Maybe some builders might have discovered by accident. No, maybe they were scarving, digging somewhere in order to fix correctly or repair correctly. So he might have been discovered by accident. No, how was he when he died? He might have been based on this appearance, he might have been in his 30s, maybe. He might have been in his 30s, no? What is the connection with the actor Benedict Cumberbatch? Do you know this guy, Benedict Cumberbatch?
Yes, he has played Doctor Strange in Marvel in the universe.
Yes, indeed. Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah, exactly. Is that guy. Better known as Doctor Strange, no? He's Benedict. So how is that possible? He might have been his great-great-great-grandfather. He might have been his great-grandfather. We don't know. Probably he might have been. Okay, so let's listen to the friends, Andy and Bill, discussing about the skeleton, okay?
10.2. The King in the Car Park.
How was the theatre last night? What did you see?
We saw Shakespeare, Richard III. It was fantastic. Fabulous acting. You know, a horse, my kingdom for...
Yes, thank you, I've heard that. Was Richard III the king when Shakespeare was writing, then?
No. Shakespeare was born 100 years after Richard, in the 16th century, when Elizabeth I was queen. The thing is, I'd never seen this play before, but I've been fascinated by Richard III ever since they found his body a few years ago.
Really? Was it lost?
It was never found. Nobody knew where he was buried. It was a big mystery, and then, in 2012, they found him. Well, not his body exactly, his skeleton, under a car park in Leicester.
Beneath a car park? You're kidding me. So, King Richard III could have died while parking his horse?
Ha, not funny. No, seriously, they say the car park must have been built on what was once a church graveyard.
Yeah, but how do they know the skeleton is Richard III?
Well, they know he was killed in 1485 in a battle near Leicester, the Battle of Bosworth Field, and tests showed that the skeleton must have died around that time from battle wounds, and that he must have been in his late 20s or 30s.
So Richard was quite young when he died?
Yeah, he was.
Poor guy.
Also, this skeleton had a deformed spine. He would have been a hunchback.
And was Richard a hunchback?
So they say. They can tell a lot from a skeleton these days, and this one was in really good condition, except that the feet were missing.
How come the feet were missing?
Oh, they say builders might have chopped them off in the 16th century. Anyway, DNA tests with members of the current royal family proved that this skeleton had royal blood.
Clever stuff.
Yeah. They also found some people in Canada who are his descendants, and Benedict Cumberbatch.
Benedict Cumberbatch, the actor who plays Sherlock Holmes? I bet he was surprised.
Yeah. He actually read a poem at the funeral. Must be amazing to learn you've got royal ancestors.
So there was a proper funeral?
Yeah. Richard was finally buried in Leicester Cathedral. Thousands of people came from all over the world.
That's quite a story. Was there ever a Richard IV?
No, Richard III was the last of the Richards. But who knows? There might be a fourth one day.
Okay, so that was the listening. We're gonna do this part, answer the question using the modal verbs. Yeah, I'm gonna play that later on, but I want you to do it on your own. I'll help you with the first one. So for example, when did Richard die? So here, because we're talking about he must have died in, is missing the verb, and the other structure of have, have died in the 15th century. Yeah, this is the first one. So he could, because here we have like ing form, he could have been riding a horse or he must. ¿Cómo sería la siguiente? Following the same. He must.
Must have been fighting.
Yeah, fighting. Exactly. In a battle, no? In a battle. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. So try to do the rest. I'll upload you the listening in 4 minutes. Yeah, but try to do the rest, please. Okay, 1 more minute and I play the listening. Remember, it's missing the verbs as well. Be careful because it also can be ing form or passive voice. También puede ser por ahí hay unas de passive voice, ¿no? I'll help you with number 4, for example. He can have been buried. That is a passive voice. He can have a buried in a car park. Yeah, car park. All right.
Ten 10.3. What do we know about Richard III? 1,
When did Richard die?
He must have died in the 15th century.
2,
What was he doing when he died?
He could have been riding a horse. He must have been fighting in a battle.
3,
Who was he fighting in the battle?
He might have been fighting Henry VII. He can't have been fighting Elizabeth I.
4,
Was he buried in the car park?
He can't have been buried in the car park. It wouldn't have been a car park when he was killed.
5,
How old was he when he died?
He may have been 32 or 33. He can't have been as old as 40.
6,
What did they learn from his deformed spine?
They learned that he could have been a hunchback.
7,
Why were his feet missing?
They might have been cut off by builders in the 16th century.
8,
Did the Canadian people know they were related?
They can't have had any idea.
9,
How did Benedict Cumberbatch feel about the discovery?
He must have been very surprised.
All right, can you connect again, guys? Because it's